Áqá Muḥammad-Ibráhím. Muḥammad-Ibráhím, who bore the title of Mansur, victorious, was a coppersmith. This man of God, yet another among the immigrants and settlers, was a native of Kashan. In the early flowering of his youth he recognized the newborn light, and drank deep of the holy cup that is tempered at the camphor fountain. He was a man of pleasing disposition, full of zest in the joy of life. As soon as the light of faith was lit in his heart, he left Kashan, journeyed to Baghdad, and was honored with coming into the presence of Baha'u'llah. Áqá Muhammad had a fine poetic gift, and he would create verses like stringed pearls. In Zahra, that is Baghdad, the abode of peace, he was on amicable terms with friend and stranger alike, ever striving to show forth loving kindness to all. He brought his brothers from Persia to Baghdad, and opened a shop for arts and crafts, applying himself to the welfare of others. He too was taken prisoner and exiled from Baghdad to Mosul, after which he journeyed to Haifa, where day and night, lowly and humble, he chanted prayers and supplications, and centered his thoughts on God. He remained a long time in Haifa, successfully serving the believers there, and most humbly and unobtrusively seeing to the travelers' needs. He married in that city, and fathered fine children. To him every day was a new life and a new joy, and whatever money he made he spent on strangers and friends. After the slaying of the King of Martyrs, he wrote an elegy to memorialize that believer who had fallen on the field of anguish, and recited his ode in the presence of Baha'u'llah. The lines were touching in the extreme, so that all who were there shed tears, and voices were raised in grief. Áqá Muhammad continued to live out his life, high of aim, unvarying as to his inner condition, with fervor and love. Then he welcomed death, laughing like a rose suddenly full-blown, and crying, "Here am I." Thus he quitted Haifa, exchanging it for the world above. From this narrow slip of land he hastened upward to the well-beloved, soared out of this dust-heap to pitch his tent in a fair and shining place. Blessings be unto him, and a goodly home. May God sheathe him in mercies. May he rest under the tabernacles of forgiveness, and be brought into the garden of heaven. Zaynu'l-Ábidín Yazdí. One of the emigrants who died along the way to the Holy Land was Zaynu'l-Ábidín of Yazd. When in Manshad this devoted man first heard the cry of God, he was awakened to restless life. A holy passion stirred him, his soul was made anew. The light of guidance flamed from the lamp of his heart. The love of God sparked a revolution in the country of his inner self. Carried away by love for the loved one's beauty, he left the home that was dear to him, and set out for the desired land. As he traveled along with his 2 sons, gladdened by hopes of the meeting that would be his, he paused on every hilltop, in every plain, village, and hamlet, to visit with the friends. But the great distance stretching out before him changed to a sea of troubles, and although his spirit yearned, his body weakened, and at the end he sickened and turned helpless. All this when he was without a home. Sick as he was, he did not renounce the journey, nor fail in his resolve. He had amazing strength of will, and was determined to keep on, but the illness worsened with every passing day, until at last he winged his way to the mercy of God, and yielded up his soul in a longing unfulfilled. Although to outward eyes he never drained the cup of meeting, never gazed upon the beauty of Baha'u'llah, still he achieved the very spirit of spiritual communion. He is accounted as one of those who attained the presence, and for him the reward of those who reach that presence is fixed and ordained. He was a stainless soul, faithful, devoted, and true. He never drew a breath except in righteousness, and his single desire was to worship his Lord. He walked the ways of love. He was known to all for steadfast loyalty and pure intent. May God fill up reunion's cup for him in a fair country, make him to enter the everlasting kingdom, and console his eyes with beholding the lights of that mysterious realm. Ḥájí Mullá Mihdíy-i-Yazdí. Yet another who left his homeland was Mullá Mihdíy of Yazd. Although to all appearances this excellent man was not of the learned class, he was an expert in the field of Muslim sacred traditions and an eloquent interpreter of orally transmitted texts. Persevering in his devotions, known for holy practices and nightly communings and vigils, his heart was illumined, and he was spiritual of mind and soul. He spent most of his time repeating communes, performing the obligatory prayers, confessing his failings, and supplicating the Lord. He was one of those who penetrate mysteries, and was a confidant of the righteous. As a teacher of the faith, he was never at a loss for words, forgetting, as he taught, all restraint, pouring forth one upon another sacred traditions and texts. News of him spread around the town, and he was everywhere charged, by prince and pauper alike, with bearing this new name. He freely declared his adherence, and on this account was publicly disgraced. Then the evil ulamas of Yazd rose up, issuing a decree that he must die. Since the Mujtahid Mullah Bakhir of Ardikhan refused to confirm the sentence of those dark divines, Mullá Mihdíy lived on, but was forced to leave his native home. With his two sons, one of the great martyr-to-be, Janabi-Bahá, and the other Janabi Hussein, he set out for the country of his well-beloved. In every town and village along the way he ably spread the faith, adducing clear arguments and proofs, quoting from and interpreting the sacred traditions and evident signs. He did not rest for a moment. Everywhere he shed abroad the attar of the love of God, and diffused the sweet breathings of holiness, and he inspired the friends, making them eager to teach others in their turn, and to excel in knowledge. He was an eminent soul, with his heart fixed on the beauty of God. From the day he was first created, and came into this world, he single-mindedly devoted all his efforts to acquiring grace for the day he should be born into the next. His heart was illumined, his mind spiritual, his soul aspiring, his destination heaven. He was imprisoned along his way, and as he crossed the deserts and climbed and descended the mountain slopes, he endured terrible, uncounted hardships. But the light of faith shone from his brow, and in his breast the longing was aflame, and thus he joyously, gladly passed over the frontiers, until at last he came to Beirut. In that city, ill, restive, his patience gone, he spent some days. His yearning grew, and his agitation was such that, weak and sick as he was, he could wait no more. He set out on foot for the house of Baha'u'llah. Because he lacked proper shoes for the journey, his feet were bruised and torn. His sickness worsened. He could hardly move, but still he went on. Somehow he reached the village of Mazrai, and here, close by the mansion, he died. His heart found his well-beloved one, when he could bear the separation no more. Let lovers be warned by this story. Let them know how he gambled away his life in his yearning after the light of the world. May God give him to drink of a brimming cup in the everlasting gardens. In the supreme assemblage, may God shed upon his face rays of light. Upon him be the glory of the Lord. His sanctified tomb is in Mazrai, beside Áqá.